West Ham's Europa League opponents have been announced. The draw is complete and we have all the groups ready for the Europa League. So let's get into it. Let's talk about who we got. So the first thing we're talking about is Freiburg. And I think at first glance, people are going to look at this group and think this is an easy group. We should be getting through this. But let me give you a little bit of breakdown. Let me give you a little bit of breakdown of our opponents. So Freiburg, last year, they finished fifth in the Bundesliga, 59 points. They were 3 points off Champions League spot. So they're certainly not a team that you want to be overlooking. They are a good team. They've won both of their first opening games in the Bundesliga. Probably the lesser known teams in the Bundesliga, but they've been up, they overcame Leverkusen and Frankfurt, who, of course, when we were last in the Europa League, we lost to, we got knocked out by. So they're definitely not a team that you want to be overlooking. And I would definitely say that they are our main competitors in this Europa League. In fact, the other team that we've been drawn with is Olympiacos. Now, I think a lot of people will assume that they are our main competitors, that they are the people we need to be competing with. However, Olympiacos aren't the pedigrees that they used to be. They're not as good as they used to be. And in fact, Freiburg and Olympiacos were both in a Europa League group last year, with Olympiacos finishing on 2 points, bottom of the group, and Freiburg topping the group on 14 points. So out of 6 games, they basically got 4 points off maximum points. 14 points. They finished top of the group by 5 points. So they're two sides that will know each other quite well. And it's definitely not a team you want to be overlooking, Freiburg. I think that, I've had a look through their squad list, and I'll be honest, there's not many names that jump out. I mean, there's not many names that I can say to you that you'll recognise. However, that it's definitely not a team that you want to be overlooking, and it won't be as easy as we think it is. Like I say, they've won both their opening games in the Bundesliga so far. They finished 3 points off a Champions League place last year. They're on the up. They're a team that are doing very, very well. So they are certainly the team to watch out for, and the team that we need to be looking out for. Olympiacos, on the other hand, they've won both of their opening games in their league. Last year they did quite well as well, but I'm not sure. I mean, they used to be a team that did very well in European competitions. I think they knocked out Arsenal a couple of years back. So they're certainly not a team we want to be overlooking either. But I certainly think that with our team and how we are, we probably should be beating them. We probably shouldn't be too worried about them. And the last team is a team that I'm not even sure I want to pronounce them, if I'm honest. They're abbreviated as TSC. So we're just going to call them TSC because it's a Serbian team, and to try and pronounce their name, I think would just ruin me, to be honest. But they lost in the Champions League qualification 4-1 to Braga this year. That's why they're in the Europa League this year. They've done quite well as well. They've won both their opening games. They won the league, I think, last year in the Serbian league. They're quite a good side, I suppose, but I think they're one of those teams, one of the fringe teams of the competition where they're going to be favourites to come fourth. They're not going to be favourites to go through. They're not a team that we need to be especially wary of, I would say. Of course, you never know what's going to happen. They kind of remind me of Stade Bucharest when we played in the competition. But looking at the other groups as well, you've got Brighton, Marseille, Ajax. That's quite a big group. I think that's quite a tough group for Brighton. You've got a club we know very well, Slavia Prague, Real Betis, Aris Limassol, and Rangers, which I think as well is a very tough group. Betis are a team that's certainly on the up at the moment. Slavia Prague did very well last time they were on there. Sturm Graz, Atlanta Sporting. Again, that's quite a tough group, I would say. Liverpool, Lask, who of course we played, Royal Union and Toulouse. Again, I think that's quite a tough group as well. And then you've also got Rennes, Villarreal, Panathinaikos, and Haifa. And sorry, I made a mistake. There was Sparta Prague. Sorry, that was the team for, not Slavia Prague. I misread that. Sparta Prague. In Group G, you have Slavia Prague, ASC Roma, Servette and Sheriff, which of course they broke a few rules in the Champions League. They did very, very well as a fringe team. So I think that's quite a tough group as well. And then you've got Leverkusen, Mulder, Kurabag, and Hacken. So again, I mean, some of these teams I'm not too familiar with, and I'm not, I'm not going to get their pronunciations right all the time. Like I said, I did make a mistake there. It's Sparta Prague, Betis, Limassol, and Rangers, which again is a tough group. So I think all in all, we should be pretty happy with our group. I mean, I know that we were put in pot one, which puts us in a very strong position because we don't have to draw teams like Brighton, Liverpool, Roma, all those sorts of teams. Or I don't believe Ajax either. But there are certainly some teams here like Real Betis, for instance, Villarreal. There's some tough teams there that we have avoided. Sheriff as well. That's a team that I certainly wouldn't want to be playing. I think that they're a very strong side. So there's definitely some teams there we did well to avoid. And I think you've got groups like Brighton, Marseille, and Ajax. We've got three big teams. I mean, Ajax and Brighton is going to be very tough. And then Marseille, of course, they can do some damage on the day. They made some very good signings this summer. Betis, Rangers, Sparta, Prague. That's three really big dogs. Atlanta, Sporting, Liverpool. I think Liverpool will run right in their group, to be honest. So they've got quite an easy group. Rennes, Villarreal. That's two big teams in there. Sheriff, Slavia Prague, ASC Roma. Again, that's three big teams in there, I'd say. And Leverkusen, I think, will probably walk their group. So all in all, I'd say we've got a pretty competitive group, but compared to other groups, I think we've done quite well. If we were Brighton, for instance, and we had Marseille and Ajax, I'd be very, very worried this year about what we can do in the Europa League. But I think with all things considered, this is a very, very group for us to be in. I think a lot of people, like I said, will look at Olympiacos as our main sort of competitors, but I certainly wouldn't be doing that. I think Freiburg are the team that we have to face, and we have to hit them head on. But German teams are often quite strange to play against because they tend to play quite high lines. They're not as physical as English teams, so it's always interesting to see how we play against those. And I think as well, from the point of view of many West Ham fans, they're thinking not just who are we facing, but where am I going to be going on these away days? And of course, if you go into Olympiacos, you're going to be treated to the Greek league. And I think going to Greece is going to be a brilliant away day for West Ham fans. Germany is such a fun away day as well. Obviously, beer on tap, cheap beer as well. I'm a massive, massive fan of German football. So I think that's very exciting. And I mean, Serbia, look, it's not the number one holiday destination for, West Ham fans or English fans, but I certainly think that'll be a fun one as well. I don't think a lot of people have been in places like Serbia, so it'd be quite interesting to go over there. But I think, Greece, Germany, and Serbia, from a football fans' point of view, from an away day point of view, I think we've absolutely lucked out there. I mean, the only places really on this list that you'd love to go to, I think, are places like Ajax. But of course, you take the good with the bad. Do you want to go to Ajax and actually play them when they're probably going to blow us out the water? Although I think it would have been quite interesting to play them, considering we had quite a good relationship with the transfers that we did. Of course, signing Mohamed Kudus and Alvarez. I think it'd be quite interesting to have played them and see what happens. Rangers is a side as well I would love to play. I just think that'd be quite a fun game. But again, they're quite a good side. But I think an away day in Scotland would be quite good. Portugal, I think, is a good place to go to as well. Sporting, and obviously there's some cool little destinations in there. But I'm pretty sure people like Jamie Siegel, for instance, we're pretty happy with away days in Germany, Greece, and Serbia. And I think from a West Ham fan's point of view, we've got Freiburg, or I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but Freiburg in our group. Like I say, German side, 3 points off Champions League spot, doing well this year already. Certainly ones to watch out for. Olympiacos, they've got pedigree. They were a good side a couple of years ago, but they fell off a little bit in European competitions. I'm not entirely... I think we should be fairly set when it comes to Olympiacos. Of course, anything can happen. You never know what's going to happen with these sorts of European places. But I think David Moyes and West Ham will be very, very happy with our group. I think it's certainly a group that we can get out of, competing for that top spot. I certainly think that the top two is what we should be looking for. We finished top in, of course, it's our third consecutive year in Europe, and we finished top of our group both times in the Europa League and, of course, in the Conference League, and that means we escape the drop-down playoff. And, of course, it's really important we avoid the drop-down playoff this year because Champions League sides will be coming down. And, I mean, you look at that group of death with Newcastle, Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain, AC Milan. That's going to be a tough group, and one of those sides is going to drop down into the Europa League. So, realistically, finishing top of the group is going to be paramount importance for us, because if we don't, we might have to face a team like Newcastle, AC Milan, Dortmund. Probably not. I'd be very surprised Paris, but I mean, you got to shut them in there. So finishing top of the group is very, very crucial. I think a lot of players sort of or fans sort of disregard having to finish top of the group in your group, but I think it is so crucial. It's one less game you have to play. Of course, take one less game out of the equation, that takes luck out of the equation. It takes it all out of the equation. So I think finishing top of the group would be paramount of importance. I estimate us to be up there with Freiburg. I think it'll be West Ham at the top, Freiburg and Olympiacos, with TSC at the bottom. I mean, I'll be honest, they're not a side I know truly well. They're a Serbian side. They lost, I think, 7-1 on aggregate to Braga in the Champions League qualification. So I'm fairly sure they're a team we should do quite well against. Olympiacos, of course, like I said, good pedigree, but I think our squad is just so much more superior to theirs. Freiburg are the only team that really worries me in this group because, like I said, 3 points away from Champions League qualification last year. Top of the group, one of the top teams in Bundesliga already. 6 points out of 6 so far. They're definitely a team that's on the up and have performed very well. So, and of course, like I said, they finished top of their group in the Europa League last season. Just going to double check where they actually got to, because I'm not entirely sure where they got to after. So they lost to Juventus last year, which, let's be fair, there's no real shame in that. They lost 3-0 in aggregate, but they lost to Juventus last year, who of course went on to the semi-finals. They look like a good side, to be honest. They look like they've got some European pedigree, but I think with myself, especially when I compare myself to other teams or compare West Ham to other teams, I don't necessarily actually recognise how other teams will view us. So you get Freiburg, if you're a Freiburg fan, for instance, and you look at this group, you're going to be terrified of West Ham, to be honest. You just are. We're 7 points out of 9 in the Premier League, beating Chelsea, Brighton, another European competitor, a draw to Bournemouth. Obviously, topping our group 2 years in a row, won the Conference League last season. Yes, we had bad league form, but we can put that down to a number of things. And I think we've had a very, very, very good window. Of course, we're not sure how the window is going to finish. I'll be doing a video on that today because it is deadline day today as of recording this video. So I think a lot of the times I don't put myself in an opposition fan's sort of point of view. And I think if you're Freiburg, Olympiacos, TSC, you're looking at this group thinking, I think West Ham are going to top this group. And of course, in my own pragmatic mind as a West Ham fan, I'm sitting here thinking, I think Freiburg are going to give us a game here. I think that this is going to be a tough group to get out of. But all in all, very, very happy with this group. Very happy to even be in the Europa League. I think there's every chance that we qualify top of this group. I think there's no excuses, really. We should be qualifying top of this group. Yes, like I said, Freiburg are a good team, but we are just so much more superior in my eyes in terms of squad value, in terms of the players we've got, the big name players coming off the back of the Conference League. We've proved that we have the bottle. We've proved that we can produce. And, not to mention the fact we did come in the semi-finals the previous year in the Europa League against big teams like Sevilla, Lyon. Yes, we faltered against Frankfurt, but we gave them a very, very tough game. So when it comes to Europe, West Ham are a different animal. They're a different dog. And I think this year, certainly, we're going to be looking not just at the Europa League, because I think Moyes will want to put a lot of eggs in that basket, but he's going to be wanting to put a lot of eggs in the Premier League basket as well. So I do hope that we're able to juggle the two. I think we've got very good squad depth this year, better than, if I look at the Europa League team that we had in previous years, I think we're stronger now. I think obviously Bowen's played more football. We've got Paqueta now as well, stronger defence. Yes, Declan Rice has left, but we've got other players to fill those sorts of voids. I think we're going to have a very strong European campaign. And of course, like I said, from an away day point of view, you got Greece, you got Serbia, and you got Germany to go out to. So West Ham are in the Europa League. West Ham, Freiburg, Olympiacos, TSC. I really hope we qualify, and I really do think we will.